Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. No mai, haere mai, and greetings all. Well, the start of 2023, as we now moving through the year, was very unexpected. After a summer that certainly gave strong signs of retail recovery, we then hit the floods of the 27th of Jan and then the cyclone. The January floods particularly were very devastating for several businesses in Parnell, some of whom are still not back to fully trading. I guess after the pandemic, we now have to really address our resilience for another eventuality. So as the General Manager of the Parnell Business Association, today's guest, Bridget Vercoe from Auckland Emergency Management, is very on topic. So we hope you enjoy today's episode of Parnell Eco Bites, short and sharp topical conversations in the eco space. 8 to 10 questions, one presenter released monthly. I'd now like to hand over to Josephine Rudkin-Binks, who's a board member of the Parnell Business Association and our sustainability champion, to interview Bridget. Over to you, Joey.
Thank you, Fiora. So great pleasure to introduce Bridget. So Bridget Vercoe leads the Auckland Emergency Management's work to build the resilience of Auckland's business community to emergency events. Very appropriate, as Cheryl says. Auckland Emergency Management is the office for Auckland's Civil Defence and Emergency Management Group, and there's 16 civil defence groups in New Zealand. The groups are mandated under New Zealand's civil defence legislation to work with communities and businesses to build the emergency preparedness and coordinate the response to and recovery from emergency events. I would now like to hand over to you, Bridget.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Bridget toko ingoa. So as you heard, I work for Auckland Emergency Management. And my primary role is to work with small business owners like yourself to build your resilience to emergency events. So I'm an Aucklander, born and bred. I know we're slightly rare these days. I've got the Business Continuity Institute certificate in business continuity and more than 20 years experience in emergency and crisis management at both local and central government, NGO and the corporate sector. I've been involved in numerous emergency events, from the recent weather events earlier this year, the Auckland anniversary flood and Cyclone Gabriel, but also the Kaikoura earthquakes, the Nelson fires and the Christchurch terrorist attack. I was also part of the New Zealand government response to the tsunami in Samoa in 2009 and worked in the communications department for Singapore Airlines during 9/11 and the fatal crash that they had in Taipei. So you could say I've seen my fair share of emergencies. And the thing that always surprises me is how incredibly different every emergency event is, and how different people respond and recover from those events, and how differently organisations respond and recover. And this particularly holds true for small businesses. As we all know, running a small business is highly challenging, and so it becomes even more challenging during an emergency event. But the important thing is that we actually all learn from these experiences. Auckland Emergency Management has learned a lot from the events that we had earlier this year, and we're already beginning to work through some of the recommendations that have come out through those debrief reports.
Awesome. And what do you actually do? What's your role?
So my role is the Principal Business Resilience Advisor with Auckland Emergency Management. And as you've heard, Auckland Emergency Management, we're the office for the Civil Defence Group. We do sit within council, but I think it's really important to stress that our role is the office for the Civil Defence Group, and we are mandated under New Zealand civil defence legislation. So our key role is to work with business owners like yourselves and other members of the public to build their preparedness to emergency events, but also to coordinate the response to and recovery from emergency events. So my primary role when we're not in response is to work with business owners And that includes the development of resources, running workshops, and other engagement activities. There's just one of me, and Auckland's a big place with a lot of business owners. So most of our work involves partnering with the business improvement districts, but also other business and industry bodies. A good example of this is that with the work that we've done in May with the Employers and Manufacturers Association, who are working alongside us to run business continuity workshops across the region.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think later you're going to share with us how we get hold of those resources, because I think a number of people would be interested in those. And in terms of sort of sustainability or climate change, is probably more relevant for you, Bridget. What's keeping you awake at night?
I do lie awake a lot at night. I'm not being the world's best sleeper. And I suppose one of the things that I think about a lot is just how volatile our lives have become. I think the only constant now seems to be change. And this is just going to become more of a reality as we see climate change, the impacts of climate change. Whilst I don't want to underplay the events that happened earlier this year, unfortunately, this won't be the last weather or other emergency event that Auckland's going to see, and may not be the worst. Auckland is an amazing place. It's my hometown, but because of where we're located in the world, we're really vulnerable to weather events, like the weather events we've just seen, but also tsunami, volcano, earthquakes. We've got some quite aging infrastructure, which leads to things like power outages and water supply issues. Of course, there's always terrorism, and which we all know too well, pandemics. So it's really important that people are prepared for all these range of eventualities.
That's great. And what's on your sort of sustainability agenda for this year?
Well, in Auckland, there's more than 200,000 small businesses. According to research that was done by Auckland University, very few of these businesses do have emergency and business continuity plans. So I really want to see this turned around, and hence why I'm doing work like this today, is it's really to try and press to business owners how important this is, but also that it's not so difficult.
I think many have seen how the importance of this now, so there'll be great resources to share later. And what personally drives you?
Well, I think it is, as I said, just to try and make it easy for business owners to both understand, plan, and take actions to prepare. Because emergency preparedness and business continuity, it's not that scary. It doesn't have to be that cumbersome, but it is really important. So business continuity is just making sure that you have the relationships and the options in place before something happens. It's essentially just understanding the core tasks that your business does. So businesses do a lot of things when times are good, but each business has some core tasks or services they deliver that they need to continue to deliver to ensure their business survives. Once you understand what your core tasks are, you then need to understand what skills are needed to deliver those tasks, what resources and supplies are needed to deliver those tasks or services, and what equipment you need. And then ensuring that you have an option B for those key skills, resources, and equipment. I kind of like to think of it as a little bit of a game of what if. So what if you or a key member of your staff suddenly had a bad accident? Who could pay your invoices? Who could pay your staff? Who could update your website? What if there was a fire in your building? Where else could you operate from? Is there any alternative? Could you move online? If you think about these things before they happen, you've got a much better chance of being able to move and do it quickly and rapidly. To help business owners develop these plans, we've got a range of resources. So we've got a business continuity guide and a business continuity planning template. We've also got a response checklist and a response planning template. These are all available on our website, which is www.aem.org.nz.
Great, thank you for sharing that. I'd imagine that those resources would have been useful for many businesses during COVID times as well. So thank you for that. What do you think holds people back from action?
Probably time. We're all very time poor, and small business owners are busier than most people. I think people are increasingly seeing the benefits of doing some of this planning, but unfortunately it's still not reaching the top of a lot of people's to-do lists, which is a real shame, because research and experience from previous events has shown that businesses that have done some of this planning and given it some thought fare a lot better than those that don't. You know, preparedness reduces impact and cost of an emergency. You know, this became glaringly obvious during COVID. You know, those businesses that had a plan for their staff to work from home and had an online presence fared a lot better than those that didn't. It also ensures that you can meet your legal obligations under New Zealand's health and safety regulations. It ensures you keep your staff and your customers safe, and it protects your reputation. But most importantly, it means that you can recover faster. And that literally means for some businesses, the differences of whether their business will survive or not.
That's great. And does Auckland Emergency Management have any sustainability goals themselves?
Well, we're guided by the National Disaster Resilience Strategy, which outlines the vision and long-term goals for civil defence emergency management in New Zealand. It defines what a resilient New Zealand is and the steps that need to be taken over the next 10 years to reach that goal. You can find this strategy online, and it's really, because it is really important to note, this strategy is for all New Zealanders. It's the steps that we can all take to make New Zealand more resilient.
That's great. You've shared lots of tips already with us, but if there was one key piece of advice for business, what would that be from you?
It would be to go into our website, www.am.org.nz, download those resources, print them out, sit down with your staff, sit down with your suppliers, sit down with your business networks, and start working through those. Start thinking through some of those options can be. Even if you just come up with a few options for a few key aspects, it could make a huge difference next time we have an emergency event.
And so how have you seen businesses during an event of an emergency be able to help each other?
It's really important to work together in an emergency. You know, by working together, you will be a lot stronger. And we've always seen great examples that have businesses that have come together after an emergency event. And that might just be the sharing of resources. If you've got electricity and someone else doesn't, you can help charge phones, you can help charge laptops. After COVID, we saw businesses coming together, sharing staff, coming together, sharing websites, sharing delivery services. You know, that great container mall in Christchurch. Part of being resilient is really being linked in with your community. Know your business neighbours, join your business improvement district, be part of that wider community so that you can look after each other during the emergency and work together to recover faster.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Cheryl, do you have any last questions?
Yeah, I just would like to encourage small businesses to do a resilience plan. We actually attended one of Bridget's sessions, and I must admit I went in pretty skeptical, and I kind of went in kind of thinking, well, how does this apply to us? We've only got a staff of 3, and you know, it's not a big deal. But when you actually sort of sat through the issues and what you could do about them, it was a very logical process, and it didn't take so long. And I mean, I remember when we presented that document to the board, and you would remember, Joey, they just went, wow, actually it's so nice to just have all of this in one place. So I would just encourage, you know, any small business that's listening to this not to be fearful about this. It's quite logical, it can be done, and it's not too onerous. All right, so just in closing, I'm sure if anyone listening would like to make contact with me, if you ever want to attend a workshop, and we can always approach Bridget to set up one. Thanks, Bridget.
Thank you for your time.
Sharing.
Oh, thank you very much.